Welcome into the Chasing Trails podcast, brought to you by St. John Trail Running and powered by Resilience Through Fitness. Join two middle-aged dads as they sit down and talk trail running, life, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff LeBlanc and Brandon Thompson. All right, welcome in, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Chasing Trails podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for joining us there. If you're listening online on Spotify or Apple, thanks so much for taking the time to check us out. We're glad that you're here with us as we spend some time today just unpacking Rompin Rockwood. So this is our Rompin Rockwood review, and it's gonna be an episode. So Jeff and I will be sharing some of the good, the bad, and the ugly of this past weekend. One of the biggest trail races in Atlantic Canada, and we're pumped to be able to talk about some of those things. But it should be a good one. So hold on to your shorts because it's coming.
That's right. Hold on to your hats, folks.
That's
also,
right.
If you don't care at all about the Rompin Rockwood, that's okay, because there's going to be a lot of other good stuff in here, and maybe some suffering that you can laugh at or enjoy.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a little bit of everything, probably.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons I love reading ultra books, like by ultra runners, is just listening to their suffering.
Oh,
I think
man.
that's one of the most appealing
And
things
triumph.
about them.
Suffering and triumph. Right?
That's right.
I think that's why I enjoyed the David Goggins books, to be honest with you, because I didn't know he came from such a horrible background, and then you read about his life as a child, and you're just like, wow, this guy really has some trauma. No wonder he runs so much, you know?
Yeah.
And in some of the other stories too, you just hear about the pain and the suffering, and then coming out the other side. So you're right, and it's true.
Yeah,
it's good. Maybe someday we'll write a book.
Don't tempt me. I've been. What would we call it? I was like the fat guy's guide to ultra running or something like that. I don't know.
All the do-nots of ultra running.
That's right. The idiot's guide to ultra running, right? Written by two idiots. So it could be great. Yeah. But I don't know if you've had a chance to check this out, though. I wanted to give a shout out before we get too far into it. The Shaky Legs podcast. Have you had a chance to listen to the Shaky Legs podcast?
I didn't. No.
One of the friends of the show, Colin Swift, he's been on the show a couple times. They've released 2 episodes now of the Shaky Legs podcast, which is kind of like launching off of their the YouTube channel that they've been doing, just kind of recording Colin's kind of training for the Fredericton Marathon and getting
which I watched all of those religiously.
Yeah.
So.
For sure.
Every Monday.
So if you love that stuff, you'll love the podcast. And so just wanted to give him a shout out, and you can check that out on YouTube, I think. And I know you can check it out on YouTube, and you can enjoy some of that. So it was fun listening to them just chat about the marathon too. So it's a little bit different. It's the road, not it's still, there's still some good things you can take away, even if it's road running, but they're lots of fun to listen to. So if you enjoy us, you'll enjoy that one. It's pretty fun.
And if you want to learn from people who actually run fast and well, there's them. Go to that podcast.
Yeah. Definitely more qualified to talk about running. But they have some great stuff to share too. So really quick guys there. So anyway, just enjoy that. Shout out to Colin and what he's doing with that. So that's lots of fun. But let's dive in. We're not gonna beat around the bush here, Jeff. We're gonna jump right in, talk about the Rompin Rockwood, and we want to just kind of break it down into some different categories. So we're just gonna talk like 30,000 foot level. What were your impressions from the race? How did you feel it went? What were some of your takeaways from just the event overall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny. The event overall, and you made a comment when we started. I took a picture with you and Devin. You said I looked stunned. I felt stunned, and I don't know, not overwhelmed, but just still I've been there this is my 3rd time going to Rompin, a 25K, and then a failed 50K, and then this one, and or not failed, I didn't make the time cutoff last year, but I was just in awe of how incredible it is that they could put on such a well-organized event, and you show up and there's the check-in tents right there, and they got all the bags ready and everything's set up and ready to go. And I thought I was early at 7 o'clock. I don't know what time Mark and his crew showed up there, but it must have been an early morning for them, because I know they don't leave all that stuff sitting out in Rockwood Park for the night. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Most definitely.
Kudos to them, even just walking in and seeing the work that goes into it right from the get go. And I don't know, man, that little Katie Bell's little fella there, just a champ. Middle of the pouring rain, cold day, and he's snuggled in there doing the check-in station with his mom. And I mean, he's what, like 3 weeks old? Like, if that's not going to be a hardcore trail runner, right. I don't know what's going to be, right? So that's cool.
Peter's first trail race there on that one,
right.
So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see him all snuggled in there. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, it just goes without saying now. It's almost, and I know it takes a lot of work, but you just come to take for granted even just the level of organization that happens with them. The swag, that was like, I love the swag bag.
Eh?
Right? Yeah. So I got like my mug here that
absolutely
that I'm drinking my coffee out of, and just really I've appreciated that so much. And I think that's one of my big highlights for all the St. John Trail Racing events.
Right. And a point of clarification, since you mentioned the swag bag from my Instagram post, I was not trying to draw a link between fetch beer tasting like bathwater. I was drawing the link. I
never got that impression.
Okay, good. I thought about it afterwards. I was like, I hope Troy doesn't think that I'm calling their beer bathtub beer. It was just because it was so good in a bathtub full with warm water and a protein cookie. Like that was great. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't know if anyone else had their beer and their cookie in the bathtub, but I did, and it was great.
Yeah. One of my other takeaways is Rockwood Park is probably one of the most confusing places to run, I find. We've run all across Atlantic Canada. Sure. I've never found anything that's quite as confusing as that place, with exception of maybe Shady Grove. But the trail was so well marked. Like there was no way. I had the GPX on my watch. I didn't need it. Like I never looked at it once really, because I was just, the lanes were so well marked and the turns were so well marked. I just thought that was super fantastic, especially knowing that they had to put it in like in a downpour, like when they put the flags in. So I was really appreciative of that.
And you're right. You could get lost out there really easily. And I'm sure that's part of the reason it's marked really well in a lot of ways, right? But it's so well marked. I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I didn't find it an issue to find my way around, even with the course changes that were in there kind of last minute, not really last minute, whatever it was, a couple weeks before. Still so well marked that, you really couldn't get off track unless you were trying to. And just, I love the way that they do their runs and their races with like no panic. They're just a well-oiled machine at this point. Like I'm sure everyone knows what their job is, what they're setting up. I'm sure Mark is stressed. He doesn't show it much, but I'm sure he is. Amber and the rest of the crew too, right? But the reality is that it's just so well run that you don't even notice it anymore. You don't notice the stress. You don't notice that there's any mistakes, if there are any. I'm sure Mark could pick some things out that he would like to do better, like we all can when we do something. But at the end of the day, what a great rail run race. And I'm telling you, I was super impressed with the new little medal that Amber made.
Yeah,
that was cool. My kids thought it was cool. Super awesome. Yeah,
looks great.
Yeah, very cool.
So here's one thing that I was like kind of bummed about. So whenever I've done it in the past, I've either done the 10 or the 25, and especially the 25, you get there early enough. You're watching the 50s leave, like you can watch them, and you see the 10s coming in when you're leaving. And so there's a chance to be able to connect with like the different folks who are doing the different distances. Right. With the 50, I felt like I never got to see any of the people who were doing the 10K. Sure. I got to see the people doing the 25 run by me, but I did, but you just never got to see people who were doing the smaller distances. And that's just, you can't do anything about it. It's just that, you miss seeing some of the people who are doing their first trail race. And I think that's always like one of the big highlights for me. So that was just one thing. I was like, oh, I saw someone later on. I was like, were you here today? Did you run a race? And they're like, yeah, we did the 10K. And so they had done and gone by the time I had even got close to seeing people again. So that was one thing I was just like, oh, I kind of miss seeing them.
Yeah, it's hard to get around that when you got 400 people running a trail race.
Yeah, you can't.
You know what I mean? Like, it would be so bottlenecked.
Oh, yeah.
If you didn't. Especially because you got some people doing the 50 who are super fast. And, you know, so you got, you know, Cody and Kelsey and, you know, even Chrissy and I'm trying to think of people. I didn't look at the podium, so those are the only 3 names that I could think of right now. But, you know, and then the 25K, you got some fast guys in there. So, you know, when you get those groups mixing, if you were to do a mass start of 400 people, it would be impossible. Well, actually, it would, and I know that this isn't a shot at Willistick Wamping because it's designed that way, but you do a mass start with 200 people and a bottlenecks for the first like 3 minutes of the race or 5 minutes of the race. And it's designed that way because it's a 1 hour, you know, loop race where you're eliminated if you don't make it back in the hour. And so, you know, but it would be like that going into that first hill. You'd be in line forever.
Yeah, you would.
You know, it'd be, and then I would feel, you never know where to slot yourself. So like, I'd feel horrible if I was, you know, taking up the trail on someone who realistically.
I know. I just stand on the side.
Me, right?
That's right. Just stand on the side.
You'd have to watch 400 people go by, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that'd be painful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like when the weather is better, people would stick around longer. It was a rainy day, kind of misty, so I think people cleared out a little bit quicker than normal. But anyway, that's the only thing that I could think of that
there was a surprising surprising amount of people who were there who weren't even running, you know, they just came out for the day. And that's a testament to, you know, to the community, but that just came out because even on the bad weather, like it was, you know, that basically just, you know, were registered, but hurt, you know, like Susan came, she didn't run. She's doing another big race, so she was saving for that. Jackson did the same thing. Yeah. And so, you know, there was a lot of people who were there. Sorry, it was Suzanne, not Susan, that were just supposed to be, you know, that might not have come at all, but did just because of the community, right? Which is super cool. So,
yeah. And so there was just some really cool vibes to it all, and the new chip timing seemed to go pretty well. There wasn't any hiccups with that, except for some people shifted their race distance like at the last minute, and so that kind of messed things up. But they could fix that after the case. It wasn't, you know. So if you were signed up for the 55 and then dropped to the 25 the day of, that was like you're the winner because you had gotten through the fastest. But they could just fix that after, so it wasn't a big deal. But yeah, everything seemed to go pretty well with the chip timing. At least that's what I've heard, and so that's been pretty cool to see that now we have our own kind of chip timing part. So that's one more piece to being totally self-sufficient. It's pretty wild.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of the whole race recap. Again, like the main star of the show is the course itself. Like, love it or hate it, it is a beast of a course.
I hate it right now.
It's just so punchy. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but it's a gem. Like, it is a gem to be able to have that much space, that much trail, that technical a trail, even in the middle of the city. And so I think, like I've said this before, Rockwood Park is the second largest, you know, park within a city next to Central Park. And so it's like a huge gem to have. And so it was great to be able to go on some of those old faithful courses. And I won't say this out loud, but I will, but I'll deny that I ever say it. But one of my favorite parts of the course is that spot right after Skywalker. Like, there's a little spot in between Skywalker and the Mackay Skyway that is just gorgeous. Like, it is super mossy. You've got some views. It's like the trees are all spread out. It's just like I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's Our Compliments. I think that's what the name of the trail is.
Yep.
And it is just gorgeous. But half the time I didn't notice it, but this time I did. So I was able to take it in and enjoy it a little bit. And so there's some really great views on it. Which one's your favorite trail of that whole circuit? Do you know the name of it?
None of it right now.
None of it. None. The finish. The finish line.
That's right. From the bottom of McKay Highway out around the bike park and the jump park to the finish line. That's a pretty great part of the race. No,
the paved area.
I find them. Thinking back now, I find them all very difficult. In the sense that all I could think about. I won't get into the full my race recap because we were going to do that in a minute, but all I could think about while I was running that race after having just been into part of the Funday Trail, Funday footpath, was that, my goodness, this is easily as difficult a terrain as the footpath. It may not have as much elevation if you did the whole footpath. Obviously, they're both around 50 kilometers. But the terrain is just as difficult as I remember the footpath being when I'm hiking it the 2 times I did and when I was just into Little Salmon. So when you think of, and some parts of the footpath would actually be cleaner because of the high traffic and so on, and the work they've done on it, than perhaps parts of Rockwood Park. So, and those trails. And so I'm always a little bit dumbfounded by the idea of, let's take the worst possible trails in the park and turn it into a 50K. I appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm like, man, if everyone knew how difficult that course was, it would be so highly respected within, the community, within Atlantic Canada, within Canada, if more people knew exactly how hard and technical that run is, and then to see the amount of people that sign up for the 50K, how many women finish this year, it grows every year, how many women are finishing, and it really is a testament to people working hard and just grinding through it, because it's quite the run. Or that's how I feel about it right now. You could correct me if you want.
No, that's fair.
Or wherever. If someone has an opinion on that, who maybe is a better trail runner than me, but yeah, it's if you want a hard trail run that's going to test you, come on out to Rockwood Park and we'll put you through the grinder and we'll see how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have the climbs like Chiggy has, or, even like Capes has on some of those coastlines. But it's just, I think the word that kept coming out over the course of the race was punchy. It's punchy. Like there's no flat. Like there's never a flat part. It's always either up or down. You're just constantly, you can never get in a groove. That's what I noticed. I was like, you cannot get in a groove. There's never a spot where you're like, actually, that's not true. There's one spot by the lake there that's just like a little stretch. And it's not even that long, because then some rocks start coming up on that stretch. But there's like maybe a 500-meter stretch where you're like, you're cruising. But other than that, it's just
unless you're super fast like Cody and Kelsey and Evan Arsenault and Colin Swift and some of those guys, then you describe it as flowy and fun or something like that. That's not how I describe it. Kudos to them, right?
I'm glad they feel that way. They feel that way. That's an unpopular opinion, though.
At least on this show.
That's right.
Everyone's going to think we hate Rockwood. Listen, folks, I'll make one other disclaimer, and that is, when you hear us talk a little bit, as you could hear it negatively, we are really working on our inner positive voices. But it's fun on the show to, really exuberantly
let it out,
or let it out, in a dramatic way, because that's what we're doing here. But so don't take it too much that we're really hard on ourselves, because we are a little bit hard on ourselves, but in more of a way to grow now.
That's right.
Than what it used to be. So we're working on it.
If you think we're being hard on ourselves right now, wait till you get to our races, because then that's when it's going to really come out. So I just want you to be prepared.
That's right.
You're going to have to edit these things. But yeah. Okay. So let's get into our races here. Let's start off, Jeff, by how did you prep before the race? What were you eating before your race as you came down from Fredericton? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I probably could have done a better job with that. I made the mistake on Friday night of eating an entire 12-inch pizza. I think that was some emotional release or stress or concern
eating?
for my well-being. And so I do that more often than I'd care to admit on Friday nights after a long week of work and whatever. But anyway, so I did that, and we used all lactose-free stuff. So it wasn't the lactose or anything in the cheese that got me, but I did not feel good on Saturday morning when I woke up at 5 a.m. to get ready to come down to the race. And so I did force myself to eat a couple pieces of toast, peanut butter, and jam, because they seemed to work well or seemed to sit well when I was training on the build up towards the race. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep things status quo and do what I would normally do on a training day, or try to. So I had my coffee, had my toast and stuff, and then I made a couple peanut butter and jam sandwiches to take with me. I had all my other stuff packed and ready to go, so it was all in the car. So I didn't have to do much the morning of, which often I don't do well. But I did get it all packed up early and had all my nutrition ready to go for the race. Sectioned it off into elastic bands together, so it all stick together for what I wanted to eat while I was running. And so I had all that ready, all my water, everything in the car. And so the morning wasn't bad. I do feel like eating an entire 12-inch pizza the day before a run is a bad idea, especially a hard run like that, because by the next morning, I was really thirsty, so I drank a lot on the way down, which was fine. Yep. But it's so salty, you're bloated, you're kind of like got there, and I was like, woof, I don't feel great, so that did pass eventually, but it wasn't a great start probably. So I could do better in my preparation a couple days before the race, probably, as has since been advised that maybe it's a better idea to increase calories over 2 or 3 days prior to the race, not maybe the night before. So
I did that by accident. So I was battling the flu leading up to the week or the weekend. And so I had
not just the flu, like you guys had Norwalk virus or something.
Oh, it's
Your
something
whole
like
house
that.
Was a mess.
It was just super violent. I'll spare you the gory details, but they were gory. I was just
with
so
5 kids
dehydrated.
puking all over the place.
Yeah, everywhere. Everyone got sick except for our oldest daughter. She did not get sick, but that's because she was just quarantined in her room. She didn't ever leave.
Which is probably more normal than not.
That's right. That's just normal behavior for a 17-year-old. And so I was just getting ready on the Saturday morning. I was super thirsty. I was battling dehydration all week. And so I was trying to just continue to drink water, but you drink too much water and you get nauseous again. Your stomach gets, you're not used to having things in your stomach. So I was trying to balance that out. And then, so Saturday morning I started with an element. So I just tried to get some electrolytes to try and kind of keep things moving. And I had some sourdough toast with peanut butter and a banana with some Greek yogurt. So I had like a pretty good breakfast. Yeah. And like I have a hard time eating on race day because I get nervous and so I get nauseous. And so I'm just like trying to like jam it in to try and have something. And then when I got to the parking lot, my stomach had settled down a bit. So I had like almost like a cinnamon bun, but it's made out of like biscuit. Like, so it was like a biscuit kind of cinnamon bun.
Yep.
Oh, they're so good. Anyway, so I had one of those and drank my coffee and chatted with people. And so I felt like the morning of, I felt like I had quite a bit ready to go in the tank. Like I felt like I had eaten enough and I had got myself like I've run fasted on races before because I just couldn't get anything down. So this was way better. I was way ahead of the game on that. So felt really good. Had all my stuff prepared. You had yours in elastics. Like mine was just like all packed into one giant bag. Like it was just like I felt like Santa with his bag of presents, like I just had all my stuff in one bag, not organized at all. But it seemed like I was ready in terms of like eating and felt energy. Like I felt really good that way. So that was pretty positive. And then we get to the race itself. So we have a tale of two races here in this story. And so I'll go first, Jeff, and then you go. Okay. So we'll do the bad news first, and then we'll do the good news. We'll end on a high note. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So I've been trying to process this. I am not done yet. So I have mixed feelings about this race. And even just talking about this race, I have mixed feelings. I'll just start off by saying I have never felt more disappointed about an outcome in trail running in my life. Like, I just have never felt so gutted about a trail race in my entire life. I was having off and on throughout the last week or so, maybe even 2 weeks, just like off and on, like calf pain. Like, just, it would come for a little bit, felt like a cramp, felt like it was just a little too tight, and I would stretch it out, and it would go away for a little bit, and then it would come back. And so I was just battling that the whole time. So I just thought it was just tightness, which we don't stretch. So that's like just part and parcel of life. So,
Sure.
so I even told you yet, like the day before, I was like, man, my calf is feeling weird. I went and got it massaged. I felt like it was, felt that helped. And so I was ready to go. And then maybe, I don't know, a kilometer in, I said to you, I was like, oh man, my calf is acting up. Like, it's doing something weird. So I just kind of like put it out of my mind and just kind of went to it. Around 7K, just around Sweetness, there was like a bald rock on the trail that you have to kind of climb up. And I was pushing off that, and I just felt like like someone stabbed a knife in the back of my calf. And it almost felt like someone kicked me. Like, that's kind of how it felt. And so and after that, I couldn't push off. Like, it just felt like there was no muscle there. Like, it was a weird feeling. Like, you were just, if I kept my foot flat, it was fine. Like, it didn't bother me. But as soon as I started to lift my heel off the ground, just that sharp pain would come in. So I'm like, oh, frig, what am I going to do? And so I just hobble. I got to the aid station, and the aid station ladies were fantastic.
Fantastic, eh? What a
Fantastic
group of folks to have out there.
Yeah. And I was just like, not myself. I was upset. I was frustrated, and I was not very I was not very excited to see them. I was just like, I'm ready to quit. Like, that's where I was. I was ready to quit right there. They gave me a Tylenol, and I said, all right, I was going to try and just muscle it out and see what happens. So I walked up to the next lady who was sitting at the entrance to the trail again, because we were on Zoo Trail, and I saw the height of that, and I was like, I can't even get up that. How am I going to get up that? And so I turned around, and that's when all the 25Kers start running by me in the other direction. And I was like, ugh. And I just put my head down. I'm just like walking with my poles, because that keeps all the pressure off my calf. And so at that time, I was like, I call Ann. I was just like, Ann, I think I'm going to bail. I hurt myself. I can't do any of the things I want to do. And she's like, well, you still have time. Like, you just don't make any decisions right now. Just keep going. And I said, well, if I don't bail right now, I'm going to have to do the whole like 25K. Like, it's at this point in time. And so I was like, all right. And so I just turn around, and I end up just walking the rest of the 25, whatever number of kilometers left. And it was just like the whole time, it was just like, you feel every single thing. It was awful. It was not good. It was not good self-talk. Like, if you want to hear like positive self-talk, that was not it. Like, there was cussing and swearing. There was belittling. There was berating. It was just like dark times. And then I get to that, and then I get to like Skywalker, and I'm just like literally taking my poles, I'm digging them into the ground, and like do you remember in gym class when you had like the little handles, you had to put them in the whole thing, pegs, and pull yourself up? Yeah. I was like trying to like just pull myself up, and with one leg, like, so it was just stupid. It was stupid. And so finally I got to the end, and everyone's like cheering, and I'm just like, I hate being here. I hate crossing this finish line. This sucks. I threw my poles down, and I just started crying because I was so upset, disappointed. And then, I I sat down. I was like, the first question I asked was like, did Jeff get through? Like, is Jeff gone? And you had gotten out. And so I was like, great. So I was able to at least just sit there and at least that made me feel a little bit better that you had gotten out. But I was just like, I couldn't get over how disappointed I was. I'm still not quite sure I'm over how disappointed I was, but there was some positive takeaways. I've been trying to think about those a little bit more, but I don't know about you, Jeff, but I'm like, one of those things where like I've never trained so hard and so long and so intentionally for an outcome, and to not have it happen, meet my expectation, was just hard. That was hard and disappointing. And so that was my race experience. I was if you hadn't gone out, I would have just grabbed my stuff and walked to the parking lot. Like I wouldn't have stopped. I would have just grabbed my bag and just kept going to the parking lot and left. But I was just like, all right, I'll wait around here now.
And you should be happy that you finished at least one loop, being injured 5K in or 7K in. So
yeah. I mean,
that should be a proud moment.
Yeah, there was like lots of reminding me about how gritty that is, but you don't quite see it that way when you're still not quite getting where you want to be. But anyway, so I'm trying to reframe it. I'm trying to shift it a little bit. I had so many positive comments, like people just reaching out. That, you know what? Sometimes that made it feel better. Sometimes it made it feel worse. You know what I mean? Like people were just. Sometimes I'm like, thank you. And then other times I'm just like, I don't believe you. And so I was like, I don't believe you. You're just saying that. You're just saying that. Yeah. I would say that to you if I was, anyway.
It's kind of like the people who voted for you in the pregnancy reveal because Heidi's name was in the top left-hand corner of the picture, and I didn't even notice it. But you got like 4 or 5 votes, and I think they did that just to make me feel better about the fact that I was dumb and didn't even, so oblivious to the fact that my wife's name's in the picture.
Yeah. So I've been kind of just dealing with some of that, unpacking that. I feel a little bit better. I feel a little bit more optimistic about trail running. I was ready to just quit. Like I was like, I'm finishing this podcast. This will be our last episode because I can't trail run, obviously, without getting hurt. So that, because, just compound that with last summer where I was just hurt all summer, and it just kind of starts messing with your brain a little bit. So there's some things I can learn from that. And I'm going to try and take those to heart and start stretching, start doing more of that mobility stuff, because if I don't, then I'll just be on the sidelines the whole time. And so that's not what I want. So
you've been to physio this week?
Yeah. So I went to physio. I was thrilled. I mean, I was so excited. The Mackenzie, who did all my work last summer, squeezed me in on Monday. So I have a second grade calf strain. So it's not ripped. So that's been like, it's not like torn right off the bone or anything like that. So that's positive. Some micro tears, that sort of thing. It's going to probably take 2 to 4 weeks before I can start kind of putting like any kind of lift on it. But other than that, it's all taped up and ready to go. But so it's still tender. I think it's more tender now than it was when I finished the race. So so it'll be okay. Starting therapies and all that kind of stuff now. So it'll be ready to go for loony loops. So I should be okay to go. So anyway, so that was my race. There's more there to unpack. I can talk more about it, but let's listen to what you have to say, because your outcome was much different. And I think
it's funny.
Fantastic.
You'd think so, but I'm not sure that my second lap and your first lap is all that different, but we'll get there. The second lap was a doozy. Let's just put it that way.
I bet.
So like I said, going down, I was unsure of how I felt. I felt, bloated. It didn't feel good. I was regretting my life choices of how I ate the night before, which is a broken record, and I need to fix that relationship with my food. So it's something I need to work on. But definitely still had some, thought, okay, I'm pretty well ready for this. Like I trained pretty hard. I had a good training block in to do it. I felt confident that I could do the distance and I could do the work. I just wasn't sure how everything was going to fit together and whether my feet were going to stay together, because that seems to be my problem. It was my problem at Looney Loops last year. It's what ended my race at where it was. I felt like I had more that I could have done at Looney Loops, and then I couldn't because my feet were wrecked. And so I felt like, I don't know if this is going to change, and I haven't changed my strategy as of yet for sneakers or socks or anything like that, because trail running shoes are very expensive. So I thought that maybe it was just the wetness and or the sweat or I forgot to put lube on my feet at Looney Loops last year, and so I did that this year, and I was like, well, I have it fixed. I forgot to put my Body Glide on my feet this year or last year, so I will do that this year and some Vaseline, and it'll be fine. Your feet will be fine. That was not the case. So the first lap, like you said, we hung together for the first little bit, which I think was really good for me, because usually I try to keep up with people way too much. And even in the first 2 minutes, you were like, Jeff, slow down. You're running too fast. And I was off at the front of the race, like, okay, let's do this. And you told me your calf was sore. And so I hung with you for as long as I could, until my watch basically told me that my ETA was not going to make the cutoff. And one thing I liked about the way I set up my watch with the navigation and the GPX file, which I've never done before, was that it did have a screen that showed me my estimated arrival time at the finish line. And so I could keep an eye on that and make sure that, I was in the right place. So, when I left you, it was telling me, that I was going to be, I don't know if it was 5 or 10 minutes late. It wasn't a huge margin, but I had some ground to make up. And so, I basically said, well, I'm going to have to get moving here and see how quickly I can erase that so I can make the time cutoff. And everything was going really well. So the only thing that wasn't going great was that I couldn't convince myself to eat solid food for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
The good news is that I really do well with Morton gels. And just before the race, I've been having a hard time getting them online, and I haven't had any since Looney Loops last year. And I just hadn't been able to get them as easily as I wanted to, or found they were just too expensive. But I found a box of them at the running room in here in Ferriton, and I bought the whole box, and I brought them all with me. So I had a big old pack of $78 worth of Morton gels at $7.50 a pull, or $7 a pull. When you buy a whole box, you get 50 cents off each. So I had, 10 packages of $7 Morton gels in my pocket. And then I also had some Roctane gels that have, they're a goo brand that had some caffeine and some taurine and some electrolytes and stuff in them. So I went through my first lap basically just putting those goos into me. Every half hour, I'd take one or the other. And eventually I felt like I did get a little too much caffeine and taurine in me from the Roctane, so I laid off those. I didn't have a heart rate sensor showing me my heart rate in that setting because I didn't change the screens. But I could tell it was getting up there a few times. So I was like, ooh, maybe I should lay off the Roctane, even though it felt really good when I did pound one of those into me. Definitely gave you a boost in your step for sure. So I will continue using those. I'll just probably monitor how much I use in a short period of time. But yeah, so the race was going well. Everything was moving really well. I got to the aid station, it was moving through. And then I feel like my nemesis is, for some reason, Owens Lake and Moose Tracks and Newfoundland. It just eats me up and spits me out. And it's never flat, like you said. It's a lot of roots. It's all up or downs. There is no flat section at all to those three trails. And it's a long portion of the race. Like a third
Moose Tracks
of the
goes
lap
forever.
or more, right? It goes forever. Yeah. And when you've just done Moose Tracks, you think you're all done. You get on Newfoundland and you're just like, what is this?
Right.
And so I found even on the first lap, my going up hills, I felt really good. I could climb, I could hike them really well without having any cramps, without having any leg tiredness really at the top of any of the hills. Even Skywalker, the first lap, I hiked up it with no issue, barely out of breath at the top. McKay Highway, same thing. Where last year when I did no vert training really, I struggled a lot with those two. So that helped me on the ups for sure. I think I did good training there, and I found that I could hike those out pretty well. Actually, both laps I could hike them out. Where I struggled, on the first lap and on the second lap is on the downhills.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure of my footing, and I don't like hitting roots and stuff. I'm scared I'm going to fall, and so I don't run well going downhill on those routes. And I realized part of that is all of my hill training I did out at Woolastook. You can get lots of vert there, but the downhill is on like an enduro jump track, so it's all smooth because it's made for like mountain bikes that are jumping and going around corners and stuff. And there's no roots, there's no big rocks, there's no nothing. So you run downhill there, and it's, you know, it's pretty fun. Like I can run fast going downhill, right? But it's pretty safe. I'm not going to trip. I'm not going to fall. I don't catch my feet. I don't stub my toes. And so I need to find somewhere where I can do some real gnarly downhill training to put beside my uphill training that I felt like I did pretty good. So I ended up making the first loop, but I was really tired by the end of it. And was obviously the gels were just enough to keep me going. It wasn't enough to be an abundance of energy. Mm-hmm. And so I came through, and Jackson met me at the end of the trail, and he was running in with me, and he's like, "Hey, you're gonna make the cutoff. You're like 4 minutes early." And I was like, "Yeah, that's the problem, Jackson. I'm not going." And he was like, "What do you mean you're not going?" I was like, "Oh, my hip and my groin are really sore. So I think I'm just gonna call it." And he was like, "Man, all your kids are waiting for you. Like, you should go back out." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm done." And then he was kind of a little softer. He was like, "Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. You know, if you want to be like the Leafs, go for it." And I was like, "Freak you." He's like, you can fail if you want to be like the Leafs. And then it turned out one of my daughters had a sign she wrote and said, you know, "The Leafs didn't do it, but you can," or whatever. And so I realized the joke when I got in and saw what she wrote. Anyway, but I sit down. Ann gets me a chair right away. Hottie comes running over, and Mark comes over and says, "Hey, you made the cutoff." And I was like, "Yeah, that's the problem, Mark." And he laughed, and he kind of looked at his watch as if to say, like, "Yeah, but you got to get going here, bud. Like, you can't sit forever," because he didn't make it by a lot. And so, and I know it wasn't because he, you know, didn't want me to stick around or whatever, for whatever reason. But my computer's going to die, so we're going to leave a spot here, and we're going to have to restart.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know he wasn't, you know, kind of rushing me along because he didn't want to be there late into the evening or anything like that, because he's that type of guy. He's going to be there. Obviously, he has to be for insurance purposes. He can't just leave me out in the woods. But I know that wasn't his intention. He was, you know, saying, "Hey, good job." But I said I was done, and Anne didn't even acknowledge it. She just, all she did was yell for Adam to come over, and he was off talking to someone else. And so he came over, and Anne kept asking me, like, "So how are we filling your water bottles here? You want some electrolytes in this one?" And I was like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm done." And she was like, "Yeah, but we're going to fill these up anyway, you know, just, you know, because you got to drink water. You must drink them out of these." And I'm like, "That's right." Anyway, whatever. And Hottie's there getting all my gels, and she's like, "What do you want for gels?" And I'm like, "I can't eat solid food right now. I don't feel great. So all the gels, no food. Take all the food out so I don't have to carry it. I don't want to carry any of it. Just give me all gels." And so finally Adam comes over, and this is a great part of the story as far as I'm concerned. So Adam says to me, "What's going on?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm done." And at this point, I haven't made eye contact with anyone. I'm like basically looking at the ground, except for Hottie, because she's on her hands and knees going through my bag, getting my stuff ready. And he didn't say anything. He just didn't even acknowledge that I said it. And so Anne's filling my water, and my body's still acting like I'm going running, but my brain keeps saying I'm done. Right? I don't even know what's happening at this point. Like, this is just me having an out of body experience watching what's going on. That's what I'm trying to describe. Right. And so he says, "Well, why? What hurts? Or is there something wrong?" And I was like, "Yeah, like my hip and my groin are really quite sore. They hurt." So he didn't say anything. At this point, again, still haven't looked at him. He says, I can hear him say, "Well, is it like hurt bad? Is it like injured, or is it just like strained?" And I'm like, "Well, if I took a little Tylenol, I could probably keep going. You know, like if I had a little bit of Advil, like it's, you know, whatever." And so anyway, I could see he walked away. I didn't know where he went. And then Amelia came over, and she was like, "I got Advil." So she gets in her purse, pulls out a handful. Like, she tries to give me like 19 Advil. I'm like, no, just a few. So I took 3 Advil, popped them in. Then all of a sudden I could see Adam come back. He must have heard that Amelia had found some Advil, whether he was going to get it or not, I'm not sure. And he says, so your groin hurts? I was like, yeah, my groin hurts. And he says, well, it sounds like a tomorrow problem. I didn't say anything. I just sat there and looked at the ground. And he didn't say anything either. He had handed me my water bottles, and I put them in my vest. The hottie handed me all my gels. I put them in my vest. And I was just sitting there drinking a Coke and eating my peanut butter sandwich. And Ann went and grabbed me some jubes. And I was just eating those and drinking them. And Adam stood there for, I don't know how long it's been by this point. But again, I still hadn't looked at him. And finally he says, are your feet okay? I said, yeah, my feet are fine. He says, well, that's all you need then. You don't need anything but your feet. And then he literally walked up the trail about 35 feet and just stood there and stared at me. And I'm just looking at his feet out of the side of my eye. Like, this guy is just waiting for me on the trail that I have to go down. And he just stood there and stared at me. Now, I can only imagine that if my 5 young children and my wife weren't there, that the messaging might have been a little bit different.
Right.
It might have been a little different. I would hope it would have been. Anyway, and I just sat there and I was like, I can't not go out now. Like, he's waiting for me down there, waiting for me to pass him on the way out. And my kids are watching and whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll do it. So anyway, I got up, sure enough. He met me, stand there waiting for me, gave me some encouragement, told me just to see how it felt. No, it was good. And so off I went. And I tell you, that Coke and the peanut butter jam sandwich and the jubes felt amazing.
Yeah, right.
They hit the bloodstream. I was like, actually, yeah, I could do this. This is great. And so I went the first, probably 5K, and I felt like $1 million. I was like, it's gonna be a great run. Yeah. Anyway, I got up to the top of Simon Says or whatever it was, and like on that bald rock, so to speak, almost the same as you, I felt the bottom of my foot blow up with a huge blister. Like, I felt it fill, and I was just like, and my foot was in the air when it filled, and I was like, that felt really weird. And then the next couple steps were just like, oh, that's what that is. That's a big blister. And I was like, this is gonna suck. But I was like, whatever. It's just a blister. That's a tomorrow problem. We'll be okay today. So I keep going, get to the aid station, get to Owen Lake, and my nemesis, moose tracks and whatever. And I was coming down on my foot on a downhill, and I felt the blister break. And I felt my sock and my shoe just fill with goop in between my toes. And I was just like, and it burns like really bad. And I was like, oh, that hurts. And so I was like, well, it'll probably numb itself. I can't do anything about it. I'm in the middle of Owens Lake Trail or whatever it was. And so I was like, well, it'll probably numb out and I'll stop feeling it in a few minutes. So I'm moving pretty slow at this point. And I'm running along. And then I feel it fill up with blister again. So now I had a broken blister and another blister underneath it. And I'm just this can't be good. If that second one bursts, like, it's really going to hurt, I think. And I was like, well, probably not any worse than the first one hurt. So, well, I guess whatever. Anyway, so that's basically like, I basically hobbled through the second lap, obviously, because it took me 5 some odd hours. I don't know what it was. It took me a long time to get through the second lap. Maybe even longer than that. It might have been 6 hours. Because I was moving so slow. Because it hurt so bad. And then at some point I got another blister on my baby toe that broke, hurt real bad. And then my toenails started feeling funny, and then they started hurting, the 2 big toenails on both feet. And then it was like excruciating pain with every step. It didn't matter which side of my body, like I couldn't fight it. It was both feet were just trashed. And so I get to the aid station and I texted you and you're like, well, you got an hour, it's 6:30 cutoff. I thought the cutoff was 6. And so I was like, well, an hour from the aid station to the end, like, maybe I could do that. And, of course, the girls were kind of cheering me on and trying to convince me to keep going. And so I almost bailed. I was at the aid station the second time. I was like, what's the point? Like, the flaggers are catching me. It's nice to have someone close to me in the woods, actually, because I feel like I'm going to die. And so, like, at least one of them probably knows CPR, so that's good. And so they're trying to give me some space, but at the same time, they're catching up every now and again, I think, to check on me, because I probably look pretty poor at this point. And so they would get close enough to see me, and then they'd wait for a bit and let me go ahead, and then they'd get close enough to see me and wait. And by the end of it, that they were one of them asked, like, "Do you mind us like just hanging out with you for the rest of this race?" I'm like, "No, actually, I appreciate it because
All right.
it's nice to have some
Fantastic.
company. And if I pass out, then one of you guys will help me, so that's great." But yeah, Skyliner or Skywalker and Mackay Highway were excruciating. Coming down again, the up wasn't bad, even on the second lap. Coming down any of those hills with multiple blisters and bad toenails.
Yeah, your toes must have just been banging
Pretty
against that.
excruciating. Yeah,
That
completely.
toe.
My feet were so swollen. One of my hands started swelling. I had to take my riding ring off because it was getting tight, zipping into my pocket. I don't know why my hands started swelling, just retaining water, I guess. Yeah. And anyway, I mean, I almost quit 3 or 4 times, and there was some, like you said, bad language and not great self-talk in the whole thing during a lot of the second lap. But I just kept thinking to myself, like, why would I, at this point, why would I quit? Like, there's people waiting for me at the end. It's going to feel way worse not to make it to, the end or walk in and know that I didn't finish and have to explain that than it was to just finish the race at that point. So despite the fact that it was, excruciatingly painful and didn't feel very good. Coming through the finish line was just such a great experience, though. Having the kids there and having Heidi there and Adam and Ann and lots of hugs, and it was great. You look in the crowd and there's all these people that stuck around, and even hearing about people who tried their best to stick around, but it was a long day, so I get it. Like even Kelsey and Adam stayed till just before I got back. Suzanne was there. There was tons of people that I knew, just with genuine smiles of it was just a good experience, right? What you would expect from a finish line when you tortured yourself for a second loop that maybe you probably shouldn't have gone out for, but you did anyway. And I'm glad I did at the end of the day, because I would have felt like I let myself down because I had the choice to go out or not to go out. If I missed the time cutoff, that's different, right? All of a sudden, it's like, well, if you have respect for the sport and respect for the other people who are competing for a time and whatever, if you miss your time cap, you don't go back out. That's just the rules of the race. So to me, that's just the way you do that. But when I had made the time cap, I couldn't not go back out. So anyway, it was it was a great day. There was a lot of ups and downs, like you said, but I am glad I finished, and I was quite proud of it. It's funny, when I came across the finish line, I said to Mark, I said, that must be the longest DNF in Rockwood Park history. and I actually put that on my Strava too. And a lot of people were kind of like, don't be so mean to yourself. I'm like, I wasn't being mean. I'm actually quite proud of that I didn't give up. Like, for me, that was like, I'm okay with a DNF. Like, that's fine. The fact that I finished the race, to me was great. And I was quite proud of that. So I wasn't upset in that moment. If I had have been upset, I wouldn't have stayed at the finish line like you. I would have just trucked through like I did last year. Right? Last year when I didn't make the time cutoff, I left for 10 minutes because I couldn't. I don't want to be anywhere near anyone, right?
Right.
And so like I stayed and had a good time and joked and chatted with people because I was quite proud of the fact that I finished, and so it was great that way. That's just how I joke around with myself, right? So.
No, it's a huge accomplishment.
It was good.
You should feel really proud of it. There was a couple of things too. Like, so let's just take a second and figure out some of the things that really worked, right? So for me, like my nutrition was on point. Like, I was eating really well. I didn't feel like I had bonked. I didn't feel like I had any energy or like a lack of energy. I did feel like I was kind of working a little bit from a deficit because of being sick. I felt like, to start things off, I wasn't usually as like high as I usually am. And so I did notice that, but I think I made up for that. Like, you were like, Brendan, eat something, like it's time to eat. And so I ate earlier than I've ever eaten. And I've probably ate more than I've ever eaten on a trail race. So I think that was good. I felt good on the hills. Like you, I felt like I was getting through those and getting up those pretty well with a lot of spring left in my legs. So some of the training aspects that we had throughout, like the training plan, we'll digest a little bit of that here in just a second, but I felt like those were helpful. I didn't get quite as much vert as you, and so I didn't get through that as quickly as as you were going. Like that's where you left me, was like when we were starting to go up the hills, that switchback section on Simon Says. And then, you know, it was just kind of a matter of being able to climb up those faster than I could. So that is one of the things I was like, yeah, we got to make sure we put some more of that. But yeah, food was good. I think for the most part, working with the poles was okay. I don't know if I'll do that again, honestly, but it did help. Like, I'm glad I had them because I was like basically using them as like a walker for the last little bit. But
Right.
yeah, so I think those were kind of some good takeaways for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think my training leading up to the race was good. Probably better than it has been in a long time. I think adding the vertical to my treadmill training made a way bigger difference than I thought it was making. Like, I was pretty skeptical of that maybe like halfway through, January, February, a little bit of March. I did a lot of treadmill training. I did a lot of it at 3 and 5% vertical or inclined, whatever they call it. And I was fairly skeptical of how well that would prepare me for running and climbing hills. I'm not skeptical anymore at all.
Mm-hmm.
It does make to me it seemed to make a huge difference, and it makes sense why people do it now. And I didn't really recognize people doing it until I saw like Amber doing it at like 30% or whatever that was that she was using. But I could, it definitely makes a big difference. So the training was good going into it. I do think my in race nutrition for me was good. Morton's are the best gel you'll ever find, and if you have the bank to grab a $7 gel, then that's where you should be if that's what you're looking for. And I think that the only other thing, like staying closer to the race so you can sleep longer might be a benefit, but probably not even that much realistically. So it's kind of nice to sleep in your own bed and get up in the morning and leave. So I do think that's for me a good way to do it too. Despite Rockwood Park, it's only an hour and 15 minutes away from my house, so it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of good things. I was concerned because I didn't have poles, and I thought maybe I should use them. I don't know with the train if it's good or bad. Maybe someday I'll try them on that train and see if I like it. But I feel like I'd get them hooked and stuff and trip on them, right?
Like half the time you're trying to get them back in your quiver if you don't have the belt. So I was, even if like I'd already practiced with them a little bit, I needed more time practicing with them to kind of make it efficient in my time. I probably could have just put my hands on my knees and just power hiked up those things and probably would have felt just as good. But one thing, so I just want to talk about the Trailway training plan for a little bit. We both did the plan. I think you did the advanced one because there's like beginner ones, there's an intermediate.
Yeah, I think
and then an advanced one, right?
Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
So I did the intermediate free trail 50K plan. And it was all based on time. So it was not based on distance, it was based on time. Mm-hmm. I don't think that was as helpful for me because I think I needed like 4 hours. Like, so let's say like our longest long run was 4 hours, right? That only ever got me, because I'm slow, that only ever got me to like 20, 21, 25K. No, it had to be longer than that. But like but it didn't give me as far the distance as much as I needed. And so I think for me, it'd be more helpful for me to have a distance-based training plan than a time-based training plan. Just because I don't, like when they say the 4 hours, they probably have in mind like 25, 30K. Like that's what you're going to try and get in that 4 hours. Yeah, that's not going to be me. So that will be something that I need to look at again, or at least get faster, like lose some weight or something like that to get a little bit quicker, so that the 4 hours will be probably more in the ballpark of what they're expecting for the training aspect. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Like, so I just don't know if that'll change.
Yeah. The only thing I like about the time aspect, which I think I'm the one that found those training plans, and I was looking specifically for a time one, mainly so that I could tell my wife I'll be back in 4 hours, right? But when it says run 35K, that if that takes me 5 or 6 hours, or I don't know what it's like. I don't know, honey. It's Saturday morning, and I have to run 35 kilometers. I'll be back when that's done, right?
Yeah.
But if it says 4 hours, I'll keep myself to that and say I can be back. I'll be back in 4.5 hours, 5 hours, depending on how far I'm driving to where I'm going to be. So that part of it is why I like the time based training. But I agree, I was nervous because I didn't do. The longest back-to-back runs only got me to 42 kilometers or something like that. And I was like, well, what if I can't run the last 8 kilometers? Right. But I think realistically, you probably can if you made it that far, right? So even if you only made it 30 kilometers, it's not going to be fast, but probably you're going to be able to do the last 20 because as we found out in my race, once you get out there 10K, you can't turn around.
Yeah, there's no turning back.
You have to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I did miss that, and I didn't have as much confidence as I would have if I had already run, 35, 40 kilometers. Yeah. And I didn't really count the back-to-backs as like I've done total together. I've done these 40. Right. I was like at one time I'm like, I've only done 20. So that was kind of messing with my head. So I think other than that though, the plan was really good. The speed work was helpful a little bit. I mean, it didn't make me any faster, but it did kind of build up a little bit more of your engine. But overall, I think I still recommend it for the price it was. It wasn't like a bad $10 or whatever, right? So, so that was kind of helpful. But I think I don't know if we'll keep looking at that one or do a different one for Looney Loops.
Yeah, hard to say. It was $10 for you because you remembered to cancel your membership after.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't $10 for me.
That's right.
I think it was 60.
I think I went the first day, paid my $10, downloaded every single plan there was, and then just quit. But I don't. Yeah. But I somehow lost track of all my plans, so I have to go find them again. Yeah. Anyway, so it was good. Yeah. It was good. So other than that, just a couple of big takeaways for me too was just seeing Mark Campbell run with a dislocated shoulder. He finished his 50K with a dislocated shoulder.
Oh,
I thought that was amazing. Seeing some people finish.
Then he was back at Rockwood Park 2 days later doing more. Wow.
That guy's a machine.
Good for him. He's a machine.
Yeah. And just seeing, Kelsey, just blowing the trail up, second overall. And just even seeing some of the guys in the 25K just booting it through were just fantastic. So overall, great event as usual. And what's going to happen next, Jeff? What are we going to do next year? Is this still on the list? What's the idea?
I think I need to get through recovery first before I make any big claims for anything. I don't know about you, but recovery after that has been tough this week for me. Mainly because my feet hurt so bad. Putting dress shoes on Monday morning was not fun. That hurt really bad. I pretended like it did until I got to the car because I didn't want my wife to see me. I was trying to walk really well, but I think she saw me out the window, and it was a bad scene. But man, on Saturday night, I didn't know if I was going to be okay. I was in rough shape. I didn't even go upstairs to bed. I stayed on the main floor and just said hi upstairs at her parents' house, by herself with the baby. I was like, just you go to bed. I'm going to stay here, and I'll go sleep in the spare room on the other side of the house in the apartment because I don't know that I can walk up those stairs right now.
Right.
And my father-in-law was dumbfounded with me because he's like, why would you pay money to do and feel like you feel right now? And I was in pretty rough shape, and I have, even to today being Wednesday, so 4 sleeps later, I never wake up after 6:30. I'm always up at 6 o'clock with an alarm. I haven't been out of bed yet before 7:30 because I go to bed at 9 and I sleep till 7 or 7:30 because I'm still wrecked and still trying to recover from that. Even my watch has me at a readiness for training of 16 out of 100, and it's been at 1 ever since Saturday. It was at 99 before the race out of 100, and it stayed at 1 for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and today it's only at a 16. So I took 3 full days of rest, and I think I might need more than that before my toes are ready and before my body's ready. So next year, I don't know yet. Next year, the obvious goal for me is to make both time caps. That's just the obvious goal. Will I register next year? Obviously, I know I said to never again when I finished. That was the other thing I said when I was done to Mark. I said, well, I'm never coming back here again. I finished. And so, that's what Amber yelled out. Yeah, until registration opens next year. And Adam said in 2 weeks he'll be ready for registering for something else. So, yeah, for me, the obvious answer is we'll get through recovery here and then start training for Looney Loops. But probably my goal will be to make it back within both time caps, obviously next year.
Yeah. I think I'll be back. I'm not sure. I'm still, I don't know.
You'll be back. I'll convince you. You're coming.
I'm still so bitter about it all.
Maybe we'll get you back in the 10K race and we'll start to cycle over again.
Maybe I just need to build it up again.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be, lots still to unpack. And like I do want everyone to know, like all the listeners to know, like it is a privilege and an honor to be able to do these races. I don't take it lightly, but I also we all have our stuff to unpack. And so that's part of my stuff is just trying to figure out what that all means. Like the stuff that goes on between your ears when you're running is kind of scary sometimes. Like some of the stuff that comes out, you're like, whoa, where is that coming from? And so it was like, that was part of it for me. So I don't know what I'll do with some of that stuff, but it'll be fun to talk with a professional about it, I think.
Yeah, see a counselor, Brandon. That's what that is.
I was like, Brandon, this is dark. Anyway,
at one part of my race, I saw 3 big crows or ravens like huddled together, like staring at me.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What are those crows doing there?" And I just like yelled an expletive at them, and I feel bad because the girls collecting the flags were probably close enough to hear me, but I was like, I don't know why I yelled at them, but I wanted the birds to go away. I was like, I'm not dead yet. Anyway, so yeah, sometimes you say things that are weird when they're exhausted.
Also, we can't finish the episode without saying how fun it was to run with Devin. And so have Devin come down from Resilience Through Fitness was just a blast. I mean, that guy is a tank. I mean, he went through
really
it.
Well.
Yeah, he did great.
Had a great run. Yeah.
And it was just really fun to be able to chill with him after the race. We had a great chance to chat, and he just fit right in. Like he just started moving around the room and just chatting with everybody, and it was fantastic to see him connect some dots with some people. And
I loved his video of Skywalker.
Yeah, right.
It was so good.
That was funny, wasn't it? If you can check that out, it was just funny watching him try and get through that. And so I was glad that he was doing that. And if he's listening to that, thanks for coming down and being a part of it with us. It was cool to see. Sleeping in his tent truck or whatever in the Rockwood Park. What a beast.
In the middle of the rain, freaking 3 degrees out at night. And he gets up and he was like, when I saw him at the start, he was just so cheery and happy.
Yep.
I was just like, did you just sleep in a tent? He's like, yeah, man, it was great. Okay.
Yeah, he's a different kind of animal. Anyway, that kind of wraps up our review. Jeff, anything you want to finish with, or are you good?
No, I don't know. I mean, we had some scattered thoughts, and we bounced around here. For those who enjoy the Jeff and Brandon banter show, well, you just had one.
You had probably more than you can handle.
More than you can handle.
Yeah,
if you made it through this whole podcast, and if you could pick out the time where Jeff's computer died and Brandon had to edit it, you win a prize. I don't know what that prize is yet, but send us the time, and if you made it, we'll know you made it through to the end, and we'll think of a prize for you.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for walking with us. You probably won't see us on the trails for the next next little while. Jeff as his toenails fall off, and me as my calf begins to heal. But
I gotta wait for the big blisters, the big black blisters under each toenail of the big toes to go away before they fall off, because they're pretty much glued into a blister right now. So
Nice. That's super exciting to hear. But anyways, everyone else, keep on chasing the trails, and we'll talk to you soon.
1, 2,